7 months ago, at the age of 58, I took up strength training. And I'm going to share 5 of the practical steps that I took to get that started, and also one very unexpected but probably pretty common twist that just about derailed the whole dang thing. Hi, I'm Stacy, and before I jump into the steps that I just mentioned, I will very quickly tell you how this whole thing started for me in the first place, because I do think it's relevant. So about 10 months ago, I was listening to or watching a podcast, and they were interviewing Dr. Stacy Sims. She was talking about a lot of different things, many of which concerned me, many of which truly inspired me. She was explaining how when women lose estrogen over the years after the age of 40, that is tied to a concerning level of decrease in muscle mass and bone density over the following years. But the inspiring thing that she was talking about was how we can get that back. If we do the right things, we as perimenopausal and postmenopausal women, we can not only maintain what muscle we still have, but we can still build muscle if we're doing things the right way. We can improve our bone density through certain types of exercise. I had been hearing a lot for a while now, maybe a year or so, about women need to eat more protein. She did explain why it's necessary to eat so much more protein, and I mean a lot more protein than what most of us are eating. I did, in fact, get her book. This is the book. You can see how I do books like this. Lots of notes, just a couple. But anyways, Next Level is the name of the book. That's her most recent one. And I bought that and I just devoured it. And so this is basically how after listening to enough of that stuff, I just decided I gotta make a change. I gotta do something proactive about all of this. So let me get into these steps. So the first thing I did is I realized that I had to work on my mindset, because if I was going to do this, it was going to have to be a permanent lifestyle change for me, not something I did in my 20s or early 30s where I worked out hard for 3 or 4 months and then I was done with it, right? This was going to have to be different this time. So I thought, this is going to be a big shift in my lifestyle, and not for a little while. Like, I need to get my head around this. I need to get my head around the fact that this is just going to be who I am now and what I do. This is just how I move through the world going forward. And so I needed to figure out how I was going to fit it into my schedule, because I'm pretty busy for the most part, and so I needed to figure that out. So I decided that I needed to make this mindset shift. I'm going to take a couple months and I'm going to just let this marinate, right? I'm just going to I'm going to start doing my homework. I'm going to start figuring some stuff out, but mainly for even a couple months before I did that, and not that everybody needs to do it this way, obviously, but for me, I just thought I need to really get my head around, like, subconsciously, just like accept the fact that this is something that I am going to be doing almost every day, certainly every week for the rest of my life. I needed to get clear on what my why was. Like, I know for me that if it's something that takes a lot of dedication, it helps me a lot to understand the why. Why am I doing this? Why is it actually important to me? So I wanted to get really clear about that. So I worked on that. I knew I was going to have a beginner's mindset and be patient. And the patience doesn't always come easily for me. So I knew I was going to have to, I wasn't going to see results instantly, like when I was in my 20s and I could, do hardly anything and then see a difference. I knew that was not going to be the case. I knew I was probably going to have to work at it for several months before I started to at least see. Now, probably I would feel things sooner, but to at least see visibly, like, any changes, like with body composition and that sort of thing. So I had to get okay with that. I had to make sure I was like, okay, I'm going to do this anyway. It's going to be about the journey, right? Not the destination. It's going to be about me finding a way to enjoy these workouts, as much as I can. And also know that most days I'm probably, especially after working all day, I'm not going to feel like doing it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I feel. Like, I'm going to just do it and not overthink it, and just kind of go into auto mode and just get her done, and hopefully enjoy them once I got going, which has turned out to be the case. It's the getting going that's always the hardest part, right? And so, yeah, so I worked on that for a couple months. That was sort of the first thing that I did. And when I felt like I had a good handle on that, I just decided, okay, let's get this going. So what I did next is I found a really great program. What I wanted to do was find a program that was affordable, but that was also done by an actual personal trainer, not for me specifically, but just, just a personal trainer in general. So luckily, Dr. Stacy Sims had mentioned in one of her, she doesn't talk about it a lot, but she had mentioned in one of her interviews or something that she had worked with Hailey Babcock of Hailey Happens Fitness, and they had put together in like a year prior this program called Power Happens. I'll link to her website and probably specifically that program. She has lots of programs, and I'm now doing some of the other ones too, and they're just fantastic. It's so good. But anyways, there's a lot of different people out there. It's just that these women are focused on working with women that are peri and postmenopause, and the programs are designed specifically for us, which I really appreciated, and is based on the science of what works for women my age. So the third thing I did was I basically got it on the calendar. I had to tweak it a little bit. I tried one thing one week and that worked pretty good, but then I tweaked it a little and I did that for a few weeks until I finally got to something that works well for me 90% of the time. So the fourth thing I did was I purchased a little bit of home workout equipment. So I knew that I did not want to start in a gym right away. I didn't even know what I was doing, I was going to, and plus I knew that I wouldn't need heavy weights at first, right? I was out of shape. I hadn't worked out, like seriously worked out with a program or something for over 20 years. Now, granted, I stay active, so it's not like I was, in super bad shape, but I had not been lifting weights or any of that stuff. So I knew that I could buy some smaller weights and some resistance bands, a little folding bench, got a few kettlebells. It wasn't much. I didn't need much to get started, and the program I was taking didn't require much to get started. So I did that for, the first, I think 4 or 5 months. And I think that was less intimidating for me too. Like to walk into a gym at that point when I was like so out of shape and I didn't really know what these daily exercise routines and things were going to involve. And I just thought, let me start at the house, just go in easy, right? And just, figure it out a little bit, and then I'll get into the gym once I need heavier weights, and all that sort of thing. So the fifth thing I had to figure out was the diet. And I didn't have to change my whole diet. I had to figure out how do I get more protein in. I need to have my meals to be more protein focused. I found a good protein shake that I like. The one I really, really like is by Ritual. It's a plant-based, it's a pea protein made from peas. It's very, very clean, and I just love that one. So I have one of those each day, and I just needed to figure out how to work that a little bit, The trick was figuring out how to put in more protein without increasing my calories a lot. I did cut some of my sugar too, because I do like a treat, So I had to get that sorted out. So that was 5 of the practical steps that I took to get going with things. And I'm going to get into this unexpected twist because it truly was. But before I do that, if you've enjoyed this video so far, I would super appreciate it if you gave it a like. And if you want to hear more content around self-care for women over 50, then go ahead and subscribe because I'm going to have a lot more videos coming, all kinds of different topics. Okay, so let me get into this unexpected twist. So as I was going through that 2 months or so of sort of prep time, for lack of a better word, when I was kind of working on my mindset and figuring out what program I wanted to do and figuring out, what equipment I might need at home and all, how I was going to get more protein into my diet, all those things. Occasionally I would have this sort of sense of resistance kind of creep up. Like I was so excited about it on just about every level, but there was a little part of me that just kind of was like feeling a little resistant or I think intimidated. Intimidated, I think would be the right word. And it bugged me. And I thought it was so weird to me. It was so unexpected. And I'll tell you why. It's because all my life I have had this self-image of, I'm a tough girl. You know what I mean? I was a gymnast when I was a kid. I climbed trees and rode, jumped bicycles and hung out with my brother and roughhoused, and I've just always been kind of a tough girl. I have been in shape in the past. Again, it's been over 20 years, but I've done hard workout routines, even like in my 20s, early 30s. And just, I never felt that. I never felt any sort of resistance or fear or anything at all. And so to have that sort of like hanging out in the back of my mind at all was shocking to me and very frustrating. Things would creep up for me like, how do I know I'm not gonna, like when I try to start lifting heavy stuff, I'm not gonna injure myself badly? Just like, can I even get that fit still? Like if I'm gonna do all this, I wanna be able to see it eventually, right? I wanna feel it and I wanna see it. Can I even still do that? Will my body still even do that? Things like I'm 58 at the time. I have no reason to believe that my heart is unhealthy or can't handle something like heavy exercise. But sometimes people don't know, right? So what happens if like my heart or my lungs or some part of my body can't deal with this heavier, more advanced exercise, and all these things, and I just kept pushing it away, which is what you have to do, right? To get through some of those things. But I could not figure out where is this coming from? And finally, I just kept pushing it to the side, like I'm not going to let it stop me. And I didn't, obviously. I'm not going to let it stop me, just like that's just fear creeping in. It's just resistance. It's because it's change. It's because I'm going outside my comfort zone. This is all normal. Like just ignore it and move forward. And I knew that much. But the reason I think that it happened in the first place was because I was so focused on, okay, once I do this and once I get into it, I'm going to really be able to lift some heavy weights. I'm going to be able to do some pretty advanced cardio. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to look a lot like you see with Hailey Babcock from Hailey Happens. I mean, she's been doing it for years, so I know I'm not going to look exactly like her, but in that direction of things, right? And I was so focused on like a year down the road, and somehow I was convoluting that with my starting point. And that was what was causing the intimidation, because I know what it takes to get to that spot, right? It takes a lot. It takes a lot of training, a lot of hard work over time. But the over time parts, I think, was escaping me at times. And so as soon as I realized that, I thought, wait a minute. I'm not going straight. I'm not starting at the, a year into this thing. I'm going to start at the beginning. It's going to be simple. I'm going to ease into it. I'm going to listen to my body every time I work out and after and between the workouts. I'm going to hit effort, but I'm not going to be extreme about my workouts. I'm going to ease into them so I'm comfortable, but at the same time, I'm going to exert enough effort to get some results, right? Once I got my head straight around that, oh yeah, yes, that's where you're going, but that's not where you're starting. You're starting here, and you're going to ease into it. Then all of a sudden, that intimidation went away. I was like, okay, I was just focused on the wrong part of the journey, So anyways, yeah, so that was a very interesting situation. So, all right, if you like this video, I'm pretty sure you're going to like this one too, because in that one, I am talking about what it was like inside those first 6 months. And I will link to this other video in the description below as well. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.